Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. I've been enjoying revisiting some of Queen & Company's kits from last year, so I thought it'd be fun to use the Bring On Spring kit this time. This is a full kit that includes a 6x6 paper pad, lots of dies, a sentiment stamp set, foam and acetate pieces, and lots of fun toppings. You can always purchase the refills if you want to continue making some more of those shaker cards, or you can just simply use the dies for non-shaker cards. I will include links in the description box for the unboxing of this kit that I did last year, and also the video where I finished off the entire paper pad. But for this video, I'm going to make 3 more new cards. First card, I'm using a sketch from MFT. This is number 476. I selected a tone-on-tone polka dot paper for the background and just layered that in some orange cardstock. And then these 2 strips that go across that upper portion of the card, I used some floral paper and also one of Queen & Company's foundation dies so I could have that faux stitching all around the edges. And I just adhere them to the card, let the ends kind of go off the edge, and then just trim them off. I used one of Queen & Company's scallop border dies for a little extra detail on the card. Just adhere that to the very top portion and then wrap some yellow twine around the card twice. And then just to adhere those ends, I used some red line tape behind that card panel. Attach that to a card base, and then I'll just tie a little bow in the upper left-hand corner, trim off those extra pieces. And then I'll be using that smaller rectangle piece for the image. I used another one of the foundation dies, cut out some white pearlescent paper, and then just layered that in some of the pattern paper. And I'm going to be assembling this darling little chick. So I did use Queen & Company's outline dies. So this is the piece that I'm adhering to the card, was cut out using the outline die. And then the frame of the little chick is from the die that's included in the kit. So I'll go ahead and adhere my foam to the card, and I'll grab an assortment of different shaker toppings. So I have some pops, some of the flowers, and then also some diamonds. Decided just to stick with some yellow and white for this little bird. Once I get those in place, I can seal it all in with the acetate, and then I'll use some liquid adhesive to attach this frame. And I'm using Queen & Company's sheer glue. It secures everything really nicely. And then I don't want to forget to add the little wing, and I just cut that out of some solid yellow cardstock. So I'll attach the beak and then the teeny tiny little eye. It's really hard to pick up, so I do use my jewel picker tool. And I'll just put my acrylic block on top of that, let it dry, and I'll start working on the sentiment. And I stamped Hey Chickie on a white sentiment die cut. I'm going to layer that with some of this orange cardstock as well. I just want to make sure it stays put, so I did use some red line tape. And then I'll just cut the little fishtail. And I also want to have this flush on the right hand side, so I'm just using my scissors, but I didn't get a very straight cut, so I went and used my trimmer. And I'll pop up this sentiment using some foam dimensional tape. Just adhere that right below the chick. And now I can pull out some embellishments. And I decided to use some of Queen & Company's flowers. So I have the yellow and then also the white. And I'm just going to adhere those to the card using some glue dots. And for one of the yellow flowers, I'm actually popping it up using some of the foam dimensional tape. That way it's sitting level with the sentiment. But I'll just use some glue dots for the other 2 flowers. Once I get those adhere, I can pull out some of Queen & Company's bling. And I have an assortment of some of their epoxy dots with the polka dots. These are super cute. And I also have some Goosebumps solids and then some jelly gems. Just using an assortment on the card, sticking with the colors of the paper. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 1. Now moving on to card number 2. I used a sketch from Sketch Saturday. This is number 593. I selected this rainbow stripe paper for the background, and I'm just layering this on some white pearlescent paper. And then I'll adhere this on another layer Just some pretty teal cardstock that I have. And then I cut out this large stitched banner using some tone-on-tone checkered paper. And it's a little longer than I want on the card, so I did have it hanging off of the edge and then just trimmed away the extra. For the image, I used that same rectangle stitch die from Queen & Company. And then for the sentiment, I have another one of their little sentiment banners. I cut it out using some yellow cardstock, stamped the sentiment "Thanks" bunches. And the left-hand side of this little sentiment die cut isn't going to be seen. It's going to be covered up by this rectangle piece. And I could have just trimmed it off, but it's not very noticeable underneath that white cardstock. And then to add just a little extra detail, I cut out some small circle die cuts using some solid cardstock that matches with the rainbow pattern paper. And I'm just tucking them underneath this image box. So I just kind of hold up that rectangle piece to make sure I get the placement correct. And then for that one final small circle, I'm going to just pop that up using some foam square. So now I can go ahead and start working on my image. I'll get my card front adhered to a card base first. For this card, I'm going to be assembling the tulip. I used the die that's included in the kit for the flower, and then also the outline die for the piece behind the shaker. So first I'll adhere the leaves and the stem, and then I'll adhere that outline die of the flower. And just put my foam right on top of that outline die, and then fill it with an assortment of different toppings. And these are all from Queen & Company. So this time I have some ombre pearls, some diamonds, and also some jelly gems. I'll remove this little backing piece and then add the acetate, seal everything in place, and then add the liquid adhesive. I'll put that acrylic block on top to let that glue dry. And I did let it sit longer than those couple of seconds. But now I'll add some Queen & Company bling. And for this card I have glitter globes, some of the Candy Shop bubbles, and then also some petite posies. Whenever I add bling to my cards, I like to have an assortment of different sizes. So I'm starting with that larger size of the glitter globe and then moving all the way down to those petite posies. I think it adds a nice balance. And I did end up putting 2 more petite posies in that lower right-hand corner. So now moving on to card number 3, and this is my final card. I'm not going to use a card sketch this time. So I have this scalloped rectangle die cut using some white pearlescent paper, and I just layered that on that tone-on-tone blue floral paper that's included in the paper pad. Layered that entire panel using some turquoise cardstock, and then I have some polka dot paper. Cut out this little stitched rectangle strip, layering that in the same cardstock color. And now for this card, I'm going to make a little basket of carrots. So there's a little basket die that you can put the handle on, and you could add little Easter eggs to, but I decided to do carrots. Now since this basket is going to go over that little strip, there's a little bit of dimension there. I didn't want the upper and lower portion of the basket to kind of droop. So I'm just adding some small strips of thick cardstock. Since you're not going to see it, even if some of that white peeks out, there's already white in the background. So then I'll lay in my carrots, trying to arrange them so the foam isn't going to go on top to add any extra bulk. And I am just going to put a small foam square on the upper portion of the carrots, just trying to keep it all nice and even. Some parts I only need to put 1 of the foam squares. And then of course add the little leafy greens to the top of the carrots. Now they actually look more like carrots. So 1 final carrot. And a lot of it's going to be covered up once I put the frame of the basket in place. So add liquid adhesive to that lower portion of the carrot and get that adhered. And then I'll add the foam piece for the basket. So this is going to be the shaker element of the card. Then I'm going to fill it with just a couple different orange toppings. I have the orange pearlies and then also some orange diamonds. I didn't want to put too many toppings in because I wanted you to be able to still see the carrots inside the basket. So I'll adhere the frame of the basket in place, hold that with an acrylic block while I work on the sentiment. I wasn't sure if I wanted to stamp it on yellow cardstock or white cardstock, settled with some white. And the sentiment is, I'm rooting for you. Stamp that using some orange ink. And it still kind of gets lost in that upper portion of the card since it's on white. So I'm just going to go ahead and layer that on that same blue cardstock. And I'm going to have the sentiment flush to the left-hand side. And I was trying to just hold that sentiment in place while I trimmed off the edge, but it wasn't cooperating with me. So I just snipped it real quick with my trimmer. And now I'll just pop up that sentiment using some foam dimensional tape. Since there's already a lot of dimension with this card, I thought it would look nicer to have that sentiment popped up as well. Now just to finish off the card, I'm using an assortment of Queen & Company bling. I have some orange bullseyes, also some jelly gems, and then some iridescent goosebumps. I love the jelly gems. They're the smallest bling I believe that Queen & Company currently has. So there is my finished card. I think this turned out super cute with the carrots in the basket. And now here's just a quick recap of the 3 cards I made using Queen & Company's Bring On Spring kit. If you're like me and finished with winter, this kit is perfect to just brighten up your cards. There's lots of Easter sentiments and then tons of just refreshing spring sentiments as well. I will include links in the description box if you are interested in purchasing this kit. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.